Alright, and here we are with the next match in the TrackManiaLympics. Chat is smiling, everyone's ready. I think that is a great way to start it off. The TrackManiaLympics is gonna go into its next playday, and we have a banger of a match coming up here. We have FWO versus SAX, and we are kicking it off with the 1v1. The way that this match is going to be played out is that we're going to have a 1v1, a 2v2, both being played until 5 points, and then we have 3 3v3s that are played in time attack, and then 1 5v5 again until 5 points. And here we already go into the first round of the 1v1. It is Hefest for Team FWO against Ice for Team SAX on B10 speed. So of course we're playing Nadeo maps from the TrackMania Nations Forever campaign. Hefest is going to take the first round here with actually a brilliant time of 35.12. Beats Ice by more than 0.7 of a second. So Hefest definitely with a very, very solid looking start. This map is not easy to get through whatsoever. It's a rather fast-paced tracks where contact with the Randstein is going to be very crucial. It can easily get you into an auto slide and send you right into the wall. But we can clearly see that Hefes has been grinding out this map a lot. Goes for a little SD for some extra speed, drops down onto the platform with a lot more speed as well. So Hefes putting himself up into an early advantage here in front of Ice, but not quite a lot of an advantage. So maybe the ending can make something happen. Ice coming closer now. He's going for the attack, and now the right-hander. This one's going to be very, very decisive. Here is where you absolutely mustn't touch the Randstein on the inside or on the outside. Otherwise, you will catch an auto slide and most likely find yourself into the barrier. Hefest got that ending a lot better. Ice was pushing it a little too far to the inside there, so he made a mistake. And that's the second round in a row for Croatian player Hefest, who is doing really, really well here. Already gets an upper hand here in the very beginning now. Both of them going for a short SD on the platform. Hefest now with the inside line on the platform. And of course I have no hotkey for Ice. But here we go into the second half of the track now. Ice might have a little bit of a speed advantage here. He is actually closing in now. Pretty well done here by Ice, but loses his advantage here with a slightly different and inferior line to Hefest. Now the final jump here. Hefest might be jumping a little too far left, and Ice was almost able to go for an overtake here. Only 700ths of a second. That was a great race here coming towards the end. But Hefest was able to save it here with the advantage that he was able to get in the final corner to the right. But that was a shaky ending. You want to make sure that you accumulate enough speed from that aforementioned right-hander. Otherwise you will not be able to jump the optimal line. So that is something that you really need to keep an eye out on. 3-0 already for Hefest. Ice really needs to push it in here. Otherwise, this 1v1 has already ended before it started almost. Hefest definitely seeming to be the superior player here. Now he jumps a little too far left. Ice might be able to capitalize on that, but not quite enough yet. Hefest risking it over the left-hand Randstein. Ice with a bit more speed. And this could be his round if he pushes it, but no! Only 100th of a second now between Hefest and Ice. It's not enough yet. But Ice is definitely not giving up here. Hefest is slightly losing his composure here, jumping towards the finish line. That was a bit shaky here by him, but just barely enough to keep himself in front of French player Ice. 4-0 and the point limit is 5, so Ice needs to win 5 rounds in a row, which is easier said than done, especially against a powerhouse like Hefest. And also in this round, he finds himself already a whole 10th in front of his opponent. This is looking really, really good for Hefest already. But he makes a mistake, and that is the first big one of the 1v1 here. Hefest going into the wall, and Ice can't take it easy here. This is going to be the first point, unless he messes up the ending. He even takes it easy here. He goes for the safe jump, and that's going to be the first point for Ice. Hefest throwing away the perfect 1v1. What a terrible player. So 4-1 is the score, but Ice needs 4 more of these. He needs 4 more of these. Otherwise, this is going to be the first point for FWO in this matchup. Let's go into the next one. Will Hefest be able to recover from the mistake that he did in the previous round? Let's take a look. This time, it is looking like a very good start for him as well. Jumps very far right. This is maybe a bit too far right. He needs to adjust his line to get the angle around the right-hand corner. Is able to do so and gets this turn very, very well. Solid pace for Hefest. Ice now releasing way too much here. Loses out on a lot of speed here. Now the final corner is going to be pretty difficult for Ice. He carries a lot of speed through, but Hefest is going to take it here. And this is the GG. 53.13. And Hefest closes the bag here in the 1v1 and gets the first point for FWO in this match. Very good performance by Hefest here. Consistent and fast, apart from that little mistake that he did in the previous round. But other than that, that was a solid looking performance by Hefest, who is of course known as a time attack player, but he shows that he got it inside of him. Also in other game modes, 5-1 against Ice. That is a great start for FWO against SAX. Our next map in this match is going to be the map for the 2v2. It is A13 from TrackMania Nations Forever. This is going to be played in a 2v2 format until 5 points again. And after a couple of warm-ups, we are going to be going live. It looks like we're going to have Reizo and Ins against Natsu and Racehans. Or now I see Virtual now stepping in. So maybe the lineups are not set in stone yet. But this is going to be for sure quite exciting, especially considering the fact that 2v2 are pretty prone to draws. Like, they happen very, very often. So, draws are something that we will probably see in a couple of rounds. But it is definitely going to be exciting. This track, of course, having a massive, massive shortcut. But I highly doubt that this is going to be taken by any of the players, because the shortcut isn't really consistent, or consistent enough in order to be taken in the match. However, if Virtual is playing, he's of course the overwall Meister. Maybe Virtual is going to go for an overwall. That is something we're going to find out. But, oh no, I just found out cuts are not allowed. Never mind, so this is going to be no cut action here on A13, no shortcuts. But I would have been surprised anyway. As I said, the shortcut isn't really viable since it is way too inconsistent. Race hunts with some very good internet here. Hope he's not going to disconnect or anything. But yeah, let's take a look here. I actually don't remember what the no-cut record on this one was. I think it was like a 30.8 or something, or 30.9, I don't know. 30.93 by Etis. Yeah, okay. Well, I had something like that in mind. So that is going to be a good time to look out for. If someone maybe pops in a sub 31, that would be absolutely crazy. Anyway, here we go with the 2v2 Virtual versus Virtual and Reizo against Natsu and Racehans, going over the first uphill. Quite a boring straight here, not a lot to do. And the action begins going into this left-hand corner with everyone actually lagging a little bit. Ay, is this the server? Oh boy, feels like I'm playing from a South American server. But it is Racehans taking the inside line here in front of Reizo, Virtual, and Natsu, and this is going to be the first draw. So as I said, it's going to be a draw party, and this is the perfect example of what I meant. So that was a draw, we're going into the next one. So here in the beginning, want to make sure that you steer as little as possible. Want to make sure that you don't mess up the gears too much. Just like Natsu. Funnily enough, both SAX players are lagging. And both FWO players are not lagging. Virtual now yeets himself out of the track. Okay. Fair enough. And that's going to be the round for Team SAX. 31.06 by Racehans and 31.25 by Natsu. That's going to be the first point for the red team here. No idea what Virtual did. I think he just, yeah, lagged out. I have no idea. He said he couldn't steer. Okay, interesting. Is it maybe because Virtual is driving the start on pad? Because this start is obviously slower with keyboard. Here we see Reizo actually making the first mistake here in the first corner. That is going to put Virtual in a very bad situation because he needs to win the round now. Otherwise, it is going to be the round for Team SAX. But hey, as I say that, it is Virtual actually making contact with the wall. And this is going to be the next point for Team SAX here, with Rayshans in the lead, followed by his teammates. There's no way Team FWO is going to recover from this. 31-46 and a point 57. These times were definitely beatable, but FWO with unnecessary mistakes, losing out on this opportunity. 2-0 for SAX. So yeah, it looks like Virtual is driving at least to start with pad. Because as I said, you need to steer as little as possible in the beginning in order to avoid speed loss, which translates into a lot more speed loss over the long uphill. So Virtual might be driving the beginning with pad and the rest with keyboard. I'm not quite sure about that, but we're going into the next round here. The next round here looking pretty grim for Team SAX here, Team FWO here once again, with Team SAX being in the lead once again. Natsu going out a little wide here, but manages to stabilize. And it is a .10 for Hans and a .16 for Natsu. The third point for Team SAX. FWO not really able to keep up with the pace here. And it's going to be a strong lineup to beat here. Team SAX looking very good on A13. Round number 5. This time around, no one making a mistake in the beginning. Ryza with a small lead, being a car length ahead. Rayshans now messing up the drift cancel, and it is Virtual now jumping maybe a bit too far. Will find himself auto-sliding, and also Ryzo not with the greatest line. It is Rayshans that is going for the overtake here on the last straight, and Rayshans is actually just 100 ahead of Ryzo, and that is enough to seal the deal here for Team SAX. The 4th point now for them. FWO had it in the pocket after Rayshans didn't really get the greatest left-hander on the platform. FWO kind of threw it away there. 4-0 for the red team, and FWO is looking to actually fall apart in this 2v2. So similar situation to what we had in the 1v1, but here it is. Ryzo now making a mistake. Went over the Randstein and caught a slide a little too early. Now it is Virtual that needs to take first place in order to at least secure a draw. Natsu now went a bit too wide here, and Ryzo might take over that 3rd place. And this is gonna be at least a draw. This is the best that they could have gotten here at this point. Rayshans with a 31.10, really fast on this track. And yeah, FWO at least able to save a draw here. So maybe a little bit of a confidence boost for Team FWO. Let's take a look if they're going to be able to keep up the pace here and maybe get a couple of points here into their point accounts. Ryzo now once again, and Natsu with a mistake. This is the opportunity for FWO to finally get a point now. Ryzo in the lead, and Virtual now snacking Rayshans midair. Even though Rayshans will have the upper hand here, he will get the inside line. Both of them neck and neck here, coming towards the finish line. This might be Virtual. Virtual actually gets 2nd place. It didn't really matter whatsoever anyway, but it will be Ryzo with a 31.04. That is only 1100s away from the no-cut world record on A13. Ryzo and Virtual taking 1st and 2nd, and this is their 1st point for FWO. 1-4. Did the confidence boost actually work out in their favor? Let's take a look here at the next round. Great lines here by everyone. Virtual on last place is Ryzo, Rayshans, and Natsu. Really great here. Ryzo in the lead, gets a terrible landing. Rayshans with the inside line. Virtual snacking 2nd place. And this is looking like a draw situation here. Rayshans with a .09, Virtual 18, Ryzo with a 19, and Natsu with a 37. Next draw. The score remains 1-4. The next chance for FWO to come closer, or for Team SAX to close it out. Everyone survives the beginning. Going down the hill into the left-hander. Don't want to make contact with the Randstein here. Virtual goes out very wide. Great line by Natsu here. And also Rayshans is off to a good pace. But I think this is not going to be the greatest landing for Natsu here. He goes out very wide, catches the slide. And now this Rayshans versus Ryzo. Rayshans with a 2-wheel landing right here. And he will stay in front. Virtual on 3rd. And this is the next draw. Unbelievable. They are keeping themselves alive. FWO staying in the match, but they're not making any progress. They're not getting the points, and the points is what they need. Next opportunity, round 10. Natsu this time. Not the greatest start. Race Hunts, that was a super close line to the inside wall, but everyone is off to a great pace towards the ending. Race Hunt has 2 FWO players in his back. If Raizo manages to stay in front of Race Hunt, it is going to be the point for FWO, and it is actually enough. 31.07 by Raizo and a 31.08 by Race Hunt, and this was the decisive difference for FWO. Second point for them. They're still in the game. Great performance. And I think that was a really short difference, or a very small difference between Raizo and Race Hunts. Honestly, didn't expect that to be 100th of a difference. So it was probably Raizo with a very high 07 and Race Hunts with a low 08. But here we go into the next round. Raizo with a very good lead here once again. Virtual versus Race Hunts. But this is not gonna matter whatsoever if Raizo stays on first and Virtual on third. It is going to be the next point, and FWO is coming back. 3-4. FWO starting comeback.exe. Team SAX is slacking a little bit now. Race Hunts still has a good pace, but we see Natsu now slacking a little bit. Next round. This is all of a sudden becoming super exciting, but Virtual now with a panic release in the left-hander, and also Raizo only finding himself on third place. This is probably the early GG unless Raizo manages to snag that first place, and he actually does so, and also Virtual now going up to second place. What is happening? Virtual up to second place, and this is the point for FWO. 4-4. What? Team SAX completely falling apart at the landing on the platform. Both Race Hunts and Natsu getting an absolutely atrocious landing with an auto slide. And this is now possibly the final round of this 2v2. 4-4 between FWO and Team SAX. Now the pressure is on for all of the 4 participants here in the 2v2. Virtual being a little back in the lead. It is between Race Hunts and Raizo. Raizo may be jumping a little too far. Let's see about the landing. Race Hunts with a terrible line. Natsu up to first place, and he is the one to save Team SAX right now from misery. Natsu takes it with a .17, and we continue the 2v2. Virtual and Raizo unable to pass Natsu on the finish straight. 4v4 still. And I just received an information from the beautiful looking Twitch chat, Natsu being a girl. Alright, so going into the next round here. The pressure remains high. This time around everyone gets it pretty well, but as I say that, it is Raizo actually that gets a little bit of a wider line. Race Hunts in the lead, followed by Natsu. Virtual and Raizo trailing behind it. This could be the GG. Now with Raizo making a mistake at the end, it is the GG. Race Hunts and Natsu are taking it home here after a little bit of a tilt maybe on their side. Race Hunts with a .11 and Natsu with a .17 are going to seal the deal in the 2v2, making it a 1-1 total score after the 2 sub-matches of this matchup. Couldn't have gotten any more interesting than this though. Also, Josh Style Gaming, thank you for the 8-month Twitch Prime resub.
$10 months POG FWO Riolu Hype.
Thank you, Aléatoire, for your resub as well. So what's coming up next are going to be 3 different 3v3s in Time Attack. We're going to play 4 minutes of Time Attack, and that way we will determine the winner for the 3v3s. Let's take a look at what will be played. It looks like we're going to have AO9 race for the first 3v3 here. And if the information is true, Aona, that Natsu is actually Race Hunt's girlfriend, then it makes sense that they both lagged at the same time. Because they probably both played from the same network. Then it makes sense. But hey, not quite sure about that. GLHF, let's go into the time attack phase with... Who do we have, actually? We have Hefest, Trinity, and Raizo, who just restarted for FWO. Then we have Berserker, Natsu, and Race Hans for Team SAX on track AO9. We can maybe take a swift look here at the TrackMania times. It is Trinity that has the fastest time out of all right now. He has a 24.61, which is 700s away from the world record. Jav with a 64, who's not playing. Hefes with a 64. Raysands with a 65. And that's about it. So these players find themselves in the TrackMania list. No one has finished so far. Let's just switch between the players here a little bit. Trinity clocking in the first time here, 24.88. The first one to reach the finish line. Hefest about to reach it as well. If he manages to succeed the bug slide around the last bend, and he does so with a 24.80. Reizo clocks in a 26.08. I think he's going to improve that. Berserker lagged out. Let's take a look at Natsu. A little bit of a shaky landing right there. Lucky that she didn't get a land bug on the Randstein. Now the bug slide. Nope. Didn't go through. Raysans, 24.82. Right now on P2 on the scoreboard. 2.5 minutes left. Not sure about Berserker though. They should maybe replace him. Let's follow Natsu on her next attempt. Right behind Raizo. The bug slide is of course very important. Probably the most important part of the entire track. Raizo now clocks in P1. 24.78. 200s in front of Hefes. So the double lead for Team FWO right now. Raysans on 3rd. Trinity on 4th. Natsu on 5th. And Berserker still in the void. Still not able to move. Trinity now. 24.77. Triple lead for FWO now. Looking pretty good here for this result. Let's follow Trinity through his next attempts. Going through the no jump, takes it pretty easy here. Now the drop, you want to go for a diagonal approach. Trinity decides to restart, but for the diagonal approach you need a small release as well in order to land as smoothly as possible. Let's follow Hefest. Croatian player, owner of multiple Nadeo world records in the TrackMania Nations Forever campaign, including the 2 infamous Uberbug records on A12 and C14. Hefest has greatly improved in the last months and years, has turned into a real beast, but this bug slide was not very beastly. Berserker now reconnecting. He still has no time. Natsu only with a 25.46. She probably needs to step it up here a little bit. Otherwise, Team SAX is gonna lose this time attack phase here on AO9. Race Hans on his next attempt. Let's take a look here. Great landing on the downhill. Goes for a 2-wheel landing. Dropping down. But makes contact with the inside wall. Most likely the final attempt here for Race Hans. He needs to pop it off now. Let's take a look at him. All eyes on Raysans, stumbles a little bit over the Randstein on the outside. Hefes now taking over the first place here with a 0.76. And this is most likely going to be the GG here for FWO. Raysans now going to the bug slide, but this was not a good attempt here. Only a 25.07 by him. And this is going to be the GG for FWO. They are going to win the first out of 3 3v3s. Our next map, by the looks of it, is going to be AO7 Race. A very technical track, which is very interesting. The times might be a bit closer than on AO9, because the bug slide is pretty difficult to execute. A little of a lottery as well. So AO7 might be a little closer here between the players. So, half a minute of a warm-up. Let's take a look at who is gonna drive. Looks like we have Jav from New Zealand now making his appearance in this match here for FWO. Trinity and Raizo against Natsu, Raysans, and question mark? Not quite sure who is going to be the final SAX player. Is it going to be Berserker? I mean, he had some internet problems, so maybe a little bit of a risky move to let him play, because it could happen anytime again. Anyway, GLHF going into the second 3v3. It is early in the morning for Jav, 7 AM. Good morning, Jav. Let's take a look at his attempt here. I think Berserker was lagging in. Yeah, told you. This is not a great move here. This is not making a lot of sense. Jav says good morning to the wall. Let's take a look at some of the other players. Trinity resetting, Raizo resetting, Raysans resetting. Only Natsu, the only one who finishes her attempt here. And the first time on the scoreboard is going to be at 26.54. The world record on this track, 26.23 by the legendary Pablo GD, the Spanish amigo, with a time that is actually close to being maxed out. So that is a very tough nut to crack. Raysans, 26.41. His PB, I think, is a 25. So 200s away from the world record. He knows how to time attack this track. And it is, I think, a track that he could set a good time on here in the 3 minutes that we're playing. So let's take a look at the German here, who is off to his next attempt. Short slide to the right here. Want to go for a rather tight line. Go for a low jump here towards the finish. And don't make contact with the finish block here at the end. So Raysans with a mistake. Trinity in the meantime has clocked in at 26.49. Natsu with still with that 54. And Letsta has stepped in for Berserker. Has clocked in at 27.02. Which is a time that is certainly not competitive enough here against these players. Jav hasn't finished yet. Raizo, as you can see in the chat, 26.45, 400s away from Raysans' best time so far in the session. Jav going out a little wide here, carries a lot of speed through this stretch though, and he is able to actually put himself into the Raysans Raizo sandwich. Jav on P2 with a 26.43. Let's take a look at next attempt by Trinity. Is he going to be able to make something happen? Oh, good lord, that was an interesting line here by Trinity. Super close to the walls here. Could be a potential improvement here by him. Let's take a look what he's going to clock in at the ending. He is going for a good jump here towards the ending, but it is not an improvement. 26.51 only for Raizo. 1 minute 30 left on the clock. Let's take a look at Raysans again. Short drift to the right, that was mistimed, and Raysans, of course, knowing that that drift has ruined his attempt and decides to go for a reset. Letsta, being German for last, already struggles with the beginning a little bit, so he is maybe someone who hasn't prepared for this map. Someone that just managed to step in for Berserker, who DC'd from the server. In the meantime, Natsu has equaled her time, remains at the 26.51 that she clocked in her very first attempt. And it is Raysans still in the lead. Jav right behind. Trinity also on an attempt. Raysans the man to beat. Decides to go for a reset. Half a minute left. The players are now gonna go for their final attempt, most likely. Raysans is going for it. Is he gonna make anything happen out of this? And this is looking like another equal for Raysans. Jav on an attempt. Is he gonna make anything happen? Nope. No one is making anything happen anymore, and this is gonna be the GG for the second 3v3. So FWO is gonna win it here. And with that, the 3v3s are basically decided. But they're still gonna play the final 3v3, which is AO1. AO1, ladies and gentlemen. So this is gonna be the third 3v3. It was basically a best of 3 in the 3v3 sector. And the last one here, which is not gonna matter too much, but players still want to play it because they did prepare on it, so fair enough to let them play. We're gonna play AO1 race, with the world records being a 23.87 by Rollin and by Kripke. A track that everyone and their mother should be familiar with. The first track that you stumble upon when you play this game, most likely. So here we go with another 3 minutes of time attacking. Who do we have? We have Johals, Meh, and Hefest against Besaker, Natsu, Racehans. Skipper, I think we can ignore Besaker. I think he's still dead. So it is going to be Natsu, Racehans, and wait. Besaker's still dead. Team SAX is definitely not very well prepared here by the looks of it. But we're going to go into the first round here on AO1. Hefest and Racehans are still continuing their first attempts. Hefest now getting a better SD here through the left-hander. And this could actually be a pretty good time here for Hefest. Let's take a look here. And that is a 24.02 by Hefest. Not too shabby. Racehans with a 0.10 and Natsu with a 33. So hopefully we're going to be able to see at least one sub 24 time. Skipper clocking in a 0.37. I think FWO will be quite difficult to beat here as well. Natsu and Skipper probably not that well prepared. So Racehans maybe being left alone in the lead. Hefest improving his time, 24.01. Bad approach here into the downhill. Now let's take a look at Racehans. Way too wide SD. That is most likely not going to be an improvement here. He realized that as well and goes for a reset. Let's take a look at Johals. His first appearance here in this match as well. The Norwegian player who resubbed earlier as well. So he is a proud member of the Riolo community. And he is going for his next attempt. A little bit of a late landing here on the slope. And also a rather wide SD with an oversteer in the beginning. Also jumps too far left. So Johals memeing a bit here. Let's take a look at Hefest again. He's gonna zoop it. Is he gonna zoop it? Maybe it's gonna be an improvement for him. Let's take a look. And it is not. Meh goes for a non-SD approach. He is going full 2008. He is not going to go for an SD, and he does not improve his time. 24.06 still remaining for him. Also Natsu not going for an SD. Skipper didn't improve his time, and we're going to go into the next set of attempts. Thank you for the raid, Techie. Racehans, not too bad of a beginning. That SD was a bit too early. And he retires. All eyes on Hefest again. Oh man, in the meantime. Wow, 24.02. If that's a no SD time, then that's actually fast. Because the no SD world record is a 23.99 by Demon and by Shambo. So 24.02 is really good. Racehans now also getting a 0.02, but that was most likely with an SD. Hefest. Nope. Meh. I'm impressed. I actually haven't expected to see a 0.02 like this. Oh, not too bad, but a little bit of an oversteer here. So I doubt this is going to be an improvement. Oi, never mind. 23.98 by Racehans. There you go. Finally a time under 24. Racehans gets that P1 on the scoreboard. Very nice performance by Racehans. Alright, and that is going to be the GG. FWO is going to win it here once again. But, I think that was almost to be expected. So now, we're going to go into the final sub-match of this matchup. It is going to be a 5v5 on AO8 Endurance. Of course, without shortcut. So, this is going to be pretty messy to spectate, I think, as well. Because we're going to have 10 racers on the track. So, let's see what we're gonna be witnessing here on AO8. Point limit 5. We're gonna play until 5 points here in the 5v5. And the lineup is gonna be revealed soon. A lot of FWOs, they all want to play. They're all like, hey, pick me. It's like in PE lesson back in the days. Pick me for your team. So this is a 3-lap multi-lap, a little bit different to the AO8s that we know from TM2, which are basically the staircase of death. Here in TrackMania Nations Forever, AO8 was a little more human. This was an actual track, and I would say this is not even a bad track. The shortcut kind of ruined it a little bit, but disregarding the shortcut, this is actually not even too shabby of a track. So a little speed tech-ish map, platform tech, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of hard to put this one in a category. But yeah, 3-lap multi-lap here. What was the no-cut record on this one? Was it a 58.8 or something? Or 59.8? 58 point something, right? I don't quite remember. I don't quite remember what it was. Because I remember 51.81 by Steph. Alright. Because I remember being the ass that was the first one to do the cut on the 3-lapper. Good old times. So it was me. Blame me. Alright, so we have Matt, Jav, Dennis, Raizo, and Ince against Silva, Letsta, Natsu, Ice, and Racehans. Now I'm not sure if we're live, but let's just pretend we are going into the first lap here. With Matt currently still being in the loading screen, so maybe it is not live yet. But yeah, the shortcut, if you want to know, if you don't know about the shortcut, you basically yeet yourself out of the track to the left of this pillar, land on the blue ledge of the water pool, get bounced up into the multi-lap. This is how you shortcut this. Of course, only in lap 3. So a 58.29 by Racehans already in the warm-up. That is going to be a tough nut to crack here. I think for a rounds time, that is not too shabby at all. So here's the restart, and I think this is going to be the live. So here we go with the final submatch. 5v5, Ince, Dennis, Matt, Jav, and Raizo against Racehans, Natsu, Silva, Letsta, and Ice for Team SAX. And off we go, the start block. Everyone is off and running. No wall touches so far. Everyone is super close to each other. Racehans having a little bit of a lead here over Raizu. Natsu, a little bit too tight of a drift, is going to lose out on a lot of speed here. Gets passed by a lot of players. Now the transition into lap number 2. Reizo up to second place. Ice with a massive release. Matt, Dennis, and Ince following up. So Racehans is the only SAX player in the top 5 right now. Looking like a very good round for FWO here. Let's switch the camera to Ince, the German player for FWO, now in a battle with Matt, who is actually stumbling a little bit, has to release, and will get passed by 2 SAX players. But I think all in all, this is still looking rather solid for Team FWO. Going into the final drift of lap number 2. Matt now trying to attack Letsta and Silva. Not quite enough yet. And it is Racehans taking the lead over Reizo, Jav, and Ince. Followed by Natsu, Dennis, Silva, Letsta, Matt, and Ice. This is the first point for FWO. This is like TMGL almost. Alright, next round here. FWO looking pretty strong here, but SAX can certainly have a saying here as well. If there's one round where Racehans is missing, then they're screwed though. So Racehans being a very important link here. Oh, Ince really struggling with the angle, but he's able to stabilize, is able to keep himself on the track, and remains on P3 right now. Into the next drift we go. The camera still being on Matt, who is right now finding himself on 6th place, about to get overtaken by Dennis. Not quite yet. Ince now has to lift off. Racehans in the lead. Let's take a look at the fight for first here. Going into the last drift now. And it seems rather solid for Racehans. He is going to win it here with a 51.19. Reizo on second. Followed by Jav, Natsu, Silva, Matt, Dennis, Ice, Ince, and Letsta. Next point for FWO. So if Team SAX manages to win the 5v5, they are actually going to tie up the score in total, because the 5v5 is worth 2 points as a sub-match. So winning this would mean the world to Team SAX. But being in a 2-0 deficit, that is definitely easier said than done. Let's take a look here with Natsu being the player that has made the first massive mistake of this race. Racehans once again being left behind, sort of. Final lap. Team FWO like an army. And then there's Ince, who is almost failing with that part, but he is still alive. Silva now with the attack, but it's not enough. Even though it is actually enough to pass Ince, at least by 100th of a second. Racehans is actually getting faster and faster. 58.04 by Racehans now. But then again, his efforts are not being rewarded whatsoever. 3-0 already for Team FWO. What Racehans is doing is great, but it's not enough to carry his team. His back must be hurting already. And that is an early mistake here once again. That was Reizo for FWO. So maybe a chance for Team SAX to make anything happen. Oh, massive mistake right there. Who was that? Matt. Oh no. Oh no by Matt. 2 FWOs down, but also Ice is now making a mistake. And also Ince is finding himself rather far back. So this could actually be a round for Team SAX if they manage to close in maybe first and second. Yo, this cam is actually good. Whew! This is like Formula 1, man. Alright, sorry. So, looks like Racehans is gonna take it here. With Jav on second, Silva on third, Dennis on fourth, followed by Letsta, Natsu, and Ince. So this could maybe be a SAX round, actually. It is. There you go. FWO making the mistakes, and Team SAX is capitalizing. 3-1. This is maybe lighting up a little bit of hope for their team. Also, thank you for the raid, Marius89. Impressive start by Raysans. He's already like a whole car length ahead of everyone after like one turn. That is the art of... Oh. Sorry, Raysans. I didn't mean to do this. Raysans with a mistake. And this is bad for Team SAX. Because he is the link of the team. We have a ×5 lead by FWO right now. There's quadruple. What's the next step? Oh, never mind. It is quadruple now. Thanks for making up for my lacking vocabulary in the English language. FWO with the quadruple lead right now. And it is Ice that is trying to make anything happen. Passes Raizo. Goes up to 4th. Jav in the lead. Ins on 2nd. Dennis on 3rd. This are going to be the positions at the end of this race. And that is going to put FWO into a 4-1 situation on this track.
Easy clap.
Loki, tier 3. Super juicy resub. Thank you so much, Loki. So this one could be the final round of this entire match. SAX versus FWO might come to an end here. And we already saw a first FWO player now making a mistake. And it was Jav, who is definitely not going to be happy about that. Especially considering the fact that Ins has made a mistake here. Stumbled as well in lap 1. So a great opportunity for SAX to prolong this match here. Raysans in the lead. In a close pursuit by Dennis. Letsta now struggling and makes a mistake as well. That is a humongous mistake by Letsta. And he might actually end up being Letsta. But let's take a look here at Ice, who is now up to 3rd place. Ice up to 2nd. Now it is all going to come down to the final corner. Who's going to get it best? Raizo versus Ice. Raizo with a mistake. Natsu trying to attack. Matt goes out wide. And it is Ice actually taking 2nd place. This could be important for Team SAX. 1st and 2nd place are really valuable. And this is indeed going to be the first, or rather the 2nd point for Team SAX. 4-2. SAX is still in the business. They are still live. Going into the next round. Here we go. This time around, no one is making contact with the wall in the beginning of lap 1. Everyone has survived. Everyone within a 10th of a second going into the first drift now to the right. Which does require a small drift and a drift cancel in the exit of the turn. Raysans, of course, getting it really well here. Once again, Raizo now with a touch. And that is one FWO player down. One very valuable FWO player as well. Natsu doing pretty well here. And it is the triple lead for Team SAX. If they keep up these positions, it is going to be the next point for them. But it is Ice that is completely falling apart now. Didn't get the angle after the multi-lap jump. And Ice is actually going to fall behind quite a little bit here. This is going to be do or die now. Natsu on 2nd place. Is she going to get overtaken by anyone here coming towards the ending? No. Raysans with a 58.04. A really, really great time here by Raysans. And it is the next point for Team SAX. I can't believe what I'm seeing here, but Team SAX is actually launching the comeback backpack. And Jimno is actually subscribing as well, is launching the subscription backpack. Thank you very much for subscribing, man. Really appreciate it. Welcome to the team. FWO falling apart a little bit. They're making rather unnecessary mistakes, and with that, they are throwing the points that they need to seal the deal. 4-3. Keep that in mind. They only need one more round victory. They have been sitting at 4 points for quite a while now. So maybe it is the pressure for Team FWO. The pressure that the players might not be familiar with. But this round could be going to either side. Raysans is in the lead. But there's a lot of players right behind of him. It is impossible to call who's going to take it right here. Going into the final lap now. It is Raizo that actually goes for the attack on Raysans now. Raysans is falling down to 2nd place. Let's take a look here at the battle for 1st. The final drift now. This is going to be Raizo, I think, that is going to take it here with a brilliant time here as well. Raizo with a .15, Raysans with a 19, followed by Ice, Jeff, Silva, Matt, Dennis, Ins, Letsta, and Natsu, who fell behind by quite a little bit. And this is going to be the GG for Team FWO. They are finally going to make it happen here. They managed to not crumble like a cookie at the end of this 5v5. And they're gonna win against Team SAX in every single sub-match. GG to FWO. Great performance by the players. Team SAX have been able to put up quite a good fight, especially with the help of Raysans, who has been carrying, to say the least. But the remaining teammates have not been quite up to par for the most part. So that's definitely something that they might want to work on for the next matches in the TrackManiaLympics. But this is going to be great for Team FWO. More points for the overall standing. They have, in fact, also won the global cut hunt that has been going on for the last week. So FWO looking very good in the TrackManiaLympics so far. Anyway, GG to both teams.